Hey, it's Lockie with a review of the Nidecker Supermatic bindings. These are quick entry bindings, which means that you can kick the boot into the bindings, then ride without having to tighten up any straps. The biggest selling point, especially if you compare it to something like Burton's Step-Ons, is that with the Supermatics you don't need specific boots, you can use any brand. If you don't want to watch the whole review, in short, the Supermatics do work very well. They're fast and easy to use, they ride well, but they are heavy. You might have heard of flow bindings that are also made by Nidecker. They would be probably the biggest sort of quick rear entry bindings. For some reason, flow riders who manage to overlook all the weaknesses that those bindings have. For flow bindings, you need to have them adjusted so that when the high back is down, there's enough room to get your boot in, and when the high back is folded up and locked, the straps are tight enough to ride well. In reality, this can be a hard balance to achieve, but if you're willing to fiddle and adjust for a while, I'm sure you can get there. I've heard from flow riders that this isn't a problem, and that you can just ratchet the straps down a couple of clicks to get it properly tight. While that's true, if you have to tighten with ratchets, you might as well just get some regular bindings. From my experience with flow bindings, I thought that it was going to be a pain to get the straps on the Supermatics adjusted correctly. As it turns out, it wasn't too bad. I made most of the adjustments with the bindings off the board, just to make it easy as possible. The quick set latches are pretty tough, so you might need to put in some extra effort to get them undone, or use a screwdriver for some extra leverage to pop them open. Once they're all loose, I loosened the ratchet side so there's plenty of wiggle room to get the boot in. When the boot was in, I roughly centered the big strap over the boot and locked it all down. There was a bit of trial and error to see how tight I could get it while still letting the boot in and out easily, but what I had seemed to work pretty well. The disc that they come with is quite useful, especially for riders who are still hanging on to old boards. It's compatible with regular 4x4 boards, channel, and the old Burton 3D pattern. The discs can be rotated to give you either nose to tail adjustment or heel to toe. Balancing out the heel and toe is more important to me, so I set it that way. Loosely put the screws in so it can still slide back and forth. Then I could balance up the toe and heel by looking at the binding with the boot in from the bottom of the board. Once it was centered, then tightened it all out. Once you have the straps adjusted to the boot, the inside has some numbers and notches, which makes it easy to copy the same settings to the other binding. On the other side of the strap, the ratchets lock down in place so they can keep the same position. There's a little red indicator to show when they're unlocked. There's a shiny and slippery toe section of the footbed, which is there to help get the front of the boot all the way in. When the high back's down, it opens the binding right up, and the bottom of the high back has a roller to help the grippy rubber on your boots slide past. Inside of that is a small ratcheting system that locks the whole thing down when you push your heel down to the footbed. Before I got to ride on snow, I did expect that I'd have to spend a while adjusting the straps again to actually ride. I wasn't expecting it to go all perfectly straight away. When I had the bindings on snow, I was able to get my boot in and tighten the straps a couple of extra notches, then lock it down. Other than that, I didn't have to change a thing the whole time. What seemed like it might have been tough to get my boot in while I was setting them up was actually quite easy when riding. Having the strength of your legs and your body weight to push it through made it much easier. These are relatively stiff bindings, and although there is a stiffer carbon version, the regular is going to be enough for almost all riders. I figure that because there are quite a few moving parts in the base plate, the whole thing needs to be pretty big and strong, which does make it feel quite stiff when riding. Everything is pretty responsive. They ride just like a regular pair of stiff bindings. The high back does have a forward lean adjuster, which I didn't touch because I never really ride with any forward lean. If you were riding pretty steep or serious terrain, these would have enough support to handle that sort of riding. The extra weight of the binding is noticeable. It does add up a bit over time. Each binding weighs just under 1,300 grams, compared to my regular Burton Cartel X, which is just over 900. So there is a decent difference. The sizing of Supermatics are a little different than other brands. so it's quite likely you'll be in a size larger than you would your normal bindings. For example, the large Supermatics fit US men's boot size 8.5 to 10.5, where in most brands that would be called a medium. These bindings do a good job. They do exactly what they say. They're quick and easy to get in and out of. They ride well, but they're heavier than normal. If you don't want to make the jump to a full Burton step-on setup, or you already have boots that you love, then these would be a good choice. They aren't super cheap, but the speed to get in and out is probably going to make it worth it. Subscribe for more reviews, and thanks for watching.